Judy. Hey there, little bitch. Hey there, little three-legged chicken-killing bitch. How can you wag your tail and look up at me when I gotta do to you what I gotta do? I love being a jackaroo. The 3,000-acre station was way the hell and gone in the outback, 20 miles west of the tiny town of Trangie, way far west of the Blue Mountains. I'd never milked a cow or ridden a horse or driven a tractor or cut the balls off of baby cattle. I loved all of it. Well, maybe not the nut cutting part, but I did that too. I'd found this job advertised in the Blue Mountain Gazette after being in Australia less than a week. The owner of the station, Alan Kenzie, arranged to meet me in a pub in Sydney and explained over a couple of ice-cold schooners of Tooheys Lager that I'd take my meals with the family, get Sundays off, and be paid the going jackaroo's wage of $2 an hour. That was about 25 cents back then. I felt there must be some power looking out for me. It was late afternoon and the sun was sinking into the horizon. My back was covered with flies and sweat poured out of me all over. A mob of roos 100 yards off zigzagged across the range, sending up a cloud of bull dust that fed into the late day Willy Willy, one of those Australian dust devils that walk across the parched land. Judy stayed close on my heels, hobbling along on her 3 legs. She yelped excitedly at a 5-foot goanna sitting upside down on the trunk of a big gum tree. That huge lizard didn't bat an eye. I kept stumbling because it was hard to see the ground through tears. I held the rifle awkwardly and tried to keep it from her line of sight. Kangaroos can breed up to such numbers that they seriously compete for the range on sheep and cattle ranches in Australia. When the roo population starts to get out of control, ranchers organize roo drives. As many as 100 shooters will line up and blast away at a mob of kangaroos as they stampede by, being chased by shouting mounted riders and barking roo dogs. Judy was a roo dog, trained to muster kangaroos and drive them towards the shooters. But she hadn't chased any roos for a long time, not since her left rear leg got crushed by a horse when she cut in too close. I'd gotten up real early that day to milk the cows, and as usual, Judy and Joey were waiting for me. The baby kangaroo had been thrown out of his mother's pouch during a roo drive, and Alan, he brought it home for the kids. The Joey and Judy had become good pals. Not great training for a roo dog, but since Judy only had 3 legs and couldn't chase roos anymore, nobody cared. As I milked the cows, I gave Judy and Joey each squirts in the face. They lapped it up and licked each other's faces too. After the milking, I put the milk in the centrifugal cream separator and turned the handle so fast the spoon would stand up in the cream after it had been set overnight in the fridge. Judy and Joey were always there at milking time. Judy and I were friends, and I think we loved each other. But she liked to kill chickens. Diane, Alan's wife, she kept threatening to have Alan shoot her the next time, each time Judy killed another one. Diane and Alan were both in their early 30s. Alan's face, weathered by the harsh sun and blowing dust of the outback, made him look much harder and older than his diminutive wife. Diane, with her wavy brown hair and little girl smile, looked almost childlike. But one took Diane's angelic visage as indicative of her underlying temperament at one's peril. It was lamb marking season, and Al and I had been out all day mustering sheep. With our 2 sheepdogs, Bing and Bong, we were driving a mob of over 1,000 animals. And for the next few days, we'd be very busy cutting off lamb's balls and slicing crooked notches in their ears so neighbor and ranchers would know who they belonged to if they strayed into their paddocks. The sun was already sinking into the horizon as we approached the house. Diane had been shopping in Trangie and had gotten back a minute or so before we did. Judy always stayed home when we went to the back paddock. She just couldn't keep up. We could hear Diane screaming when we were still a paddock from the last gate. We ran the last quarter mile of the house. There were feathers and dead chickens everywhere. I could just see Judy cowering under the steps, pawing off feathers stuck to the blood on her muzzle and trying to be invisible. "That's it, Alan. Either you do it or I will." This time, Alan knew he couldn't get away with not doing it. He got the gun and he was crying. He loved Judy and he was really crying hard. He was a pretty tough guy, and I never thought I'd see him cry over anything. He didn't take shit from anybody except Diane when she was really, really pissed. She was really, really pissed. Alan looked up at me and pleaded, "I can't do it, Yank. I just can't do it. Will you?" I felt a stabbing pain in a place I didn't know I had. I sensed the impossibility of his love. I took the gun from his hands and I called Judy out from under the steps. She came out immediately and ran after me as fast as she could on 3 legs, trying to put as much distance as possible between her and her shame. We walked silently to the back of the second paddock and sat down together in the red dust, just for a few minutes. Judy put her head in my lap and looked up at me with those soft, loving eyes, but her tail wasn't wagging anymore. "Hey, little girl, don't you know I love you? Don't you know I'll always love you and you'll always be my little girl? You're such a good dog, and it doesn't matter a shit if you only have 3 legs." She rolled onto her back for me to rub her belly. I stroked her softly, and she peed herself a bit, like she always did when she was happy. I stood up. I could hardly see through my tears as I put the gun to her forehead. She put her head down between her paws. I pulled the trigger. The sound of the rifle blast went into my heart like being stabbed. For a second that lasted an eternity, I couldn't tell if it was her body or mine that lay twitching in the dust. "Hey there, little bitch. Hey there, little chicken-killing bitch. What are you trying to tell me with that small tear of blood between your eyes?" I didn't go home that night. I slept on the ground in the paddock next to Judy. The sky was so clear that the stars overwhelmed me and sent me spinning into my depths and obliterated me with their immensity until I had disappeared. Judy, Chapter 1 of Journeys in Search of Who We Really Are. One Man's Quest for Meaning by Jad Balja. That'd be me.